Now, this is sort of the most obvious level of energy, just the gross influx and movement of pure energy through the system. And I've seen all sorts of things happen. Like I said, anything from insomnia. Sometimes people for periods of time will even experience certain heart palpitations. There'll be spontaneous movements of the body where the body will sort of do certain movements and release the energy spontaneously, or a leg might sort of twitch out, or an arm might lift up, or do something quite spontaneously that's not really happening from personal self, but actually our system is actually being moved by a force that the mind doesn't understand. But there's also a transformation on a more subtle level. And one of those levels is a level of mind. I can remember for a couple of years after that awakening at 32 that I literally felt like my mind was one of those old switchboards and where they had to unplug a plug from one hole and put it into another. It felt like a telephone switchboard where the wiring in my mind was being rewired and put together in different ways. I can't say that I knew what was happening or I had any understanding of it. It just felt that way. I could feel a deep transformation happening literally in the brain structure of the mind, in the way the mind was working and functioning. And over those 2 years, as that energetic process continued, almost as if something or someone was in the brain cells redirecting and restructuring it. After a couple of years, I noticed there was a much, much greater capacity for clarity and simplicity, that actually it was much, much easier not to get lost in mind, that the mind became a much more subtle tool, a much more powerful tool. It was like it could be used sort of like a laser in a very, very precise way. And before this transformation happened, I wouldn't say that my mind operated on the same level. And so there was sort of a transformation that led to a certain sense of clarity. There was also a significant quieting of the mind. And I had done many years of meditation where I kind of was trying to quiet the mind, but this was not a quieting that was happening from trying to or any attempt to quiet it. It was just as the mind was being restructured, as the brain was being wired in different ways, that it became much more quiet. The thoughts that moved through the mind were much more often what I call functional thoughts or functional thinking, which is thinking about things that are actually necessary to think about. What most of us human beings are thinking about is maybe 10% at the most of our thinking are things that we really need to think about. And 90% of our thinking is just haphazard thinking, imagining, fantasizing, and just involved in all sorts of internal stories and dramas that really have no basis in truth or anything that's even necessary to think about. So it's very, very common for people to have a transformation happening in their mind. And this also, because it's a physical thing, it will take place over time in general. And it's not at all uncommon for people to have, for a number of years, in some cases, to have real problems with their memory. Because as our consciousness is no longer obsessed with the mind sort of relaxes, and it softens and it opens. And in this transition, it may really play havoc with people's memory. I have a lot of people that have come to me that said, geez, Adya, I don't know what's happening. It's almost like I have Alzheimer's or something, because I find I forget a lot more than I used to. I've literally had people that have actually had themselves checked out to see if they indeed do have Alzheimer's, which of course is possible, someone could, but 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, they don't. They're actually undergoing a transformational process, an energetic process in their mind, that in order to bring the mind into harmony, it actually feels like it's going out of harmony for a while, because the mind is sort of being reoriented. And during this process of the brain structure being reoriented, we may have a lot of problems with memory, maybe even some problems with simple thinking. But inevitably, if there is a relaxation, if we realize that this is a natural process, this sort of reorganization on the mental level, it's something that we don't need to really interfere with or improve upon. The most important thing is just to sort of relax and let it happen and realize that it's a process. And for most people, the process of reorienting their whole system energetically doesn't happen overnight. Oh, it can be disconcerting at times if your memory is not working as well, or if you have insomnia for weeks or sometimes years at a time. But what you'll find is if you don't believe your thoughts about it, that everything is fine. It's only the mind that will tell you that what's happening is difficult, or you can't contain it, or you can't handle it. Many times when people say, I haven't slept well in 6 months, and I can tell even that they haven't slept well is leading to a lot of anxiety. And I'll just ask them, do you really need to sleep more than you are? Do you actually know that you need to sleep more than you are? Or are you just sitting there at bed at night telling yourself how tired you're going to be the next day? Or how you really need to get more sleep? But it's amazing when we let go of the thought patterns that say I need to get more sleep or I should get more sleep, and just see that they're not really true. It's just thoughts. That when we let go of the mind structure, the mind's interpretation about what's happening, actually it helps to bring a much deeper relaxation in the system, which itself promotes the transformation on a physical level happening at a much quicker pace.